Hal here, and I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about Onyx. Been using it now for about a year, deer hunting, moose hunting, turkey hunting, all of that, and really come to really like it. I like the satellite imagery mainly because I can locate hidden fields, for turkey hunting, the bogs for moose hunting. You can tell the different stage of cuts up here in the big woods for deer, whether it's clear cuts, select cuts, see the skid roads, and it's really a big help I found coming out at night. It's can really tell you like the easiest way to get out, if you got a couple miles, a couple hours to walk out. And so anyways, got the app on my phone, got the chip in my GPS, and I'm good to go. So not only that, it's used by 4,600 game wardens across the country, which is pretty incredible, and Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, wildlife biologists, and all that. They all use it, so I guess it's something you ought to be using too. So anyways, go to onx.com and you punch in the promo code BWB, and you're going to get a 20% discount. Good hunting.
This is the Big Woods Bucks Podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine Master Guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks Podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood, and sitting with me here today is Joe Cruzy.
Hello.
And filling in for the illustrious Leon Libby, because I think he's got too many nails to pound, is Lee Shands.
Hello.
So anyways, glad to be back again for another session here, and we'll do some jaw jacking, tell some stories, and do whatever. Couple announcements first there. Everybody knows we've been going through all this virus stuff and various different ways, depends where you live and stuff. But anyways, part of that deal was Silent Predator had to close up there in Winnipeg where they manufacture. So we've been behind on clothing. It's basically been, shut down for a couple of months really, and so that's kind of backed up. But the good news is they're back. They're back to work producing stuff, and I'm sure there's going to be, some kind of a lag time, in getting some of the stuff. But anyways, we'll get caught up pretty soon, I guess, with it. And so if you need to order any wool clothing or packs or whatever, just know that it's not going to be a long time now. Before we couldn't tell you when it would be, but now we can say at least they're making them, and we'll get them, which the good news is at least we'll get them before this deer season.
The other good news is there's a place to go to buy it.
That's right.
The new merch store.
Yeah. Well, you won't buy the woolies there.
No, but other thing, the fanny pack and...
That's not on there. That's on.
Oh, that's not...
Nope. The merch store. Glad you mentioned
Educate me, Hal.
Well, that's an ongoing thing with you, is educating you.
Ongoing. It's a never-ending battle, to be honest with you. It's hopeless is probably the best word, but I'm so glad you have patience with me.
Yeah. Well, I have to with all you young studs there. I remember when I was your age, so I got to kind of be easy on you.
Don't you love how he acts like I'm 18? I love it.
Well, he's the old man in the group.
I'm actually, I know you guys call me the old man, but Mike Stevens is older. He's got me by a couple years, and then we got Jim Bernardin's older too, but I guess the old man is still going to be my title, I guess.
Yeah, we tried to get Mikey down here today. He was off turkey hunting, though, so he would have been...
That's what's going on now. Yeah, Mikey...
four of us sitting jaw jack would have been...
Me and Mikey got together a couple days ago, and once in a while we'll see a bird crossing the road, a turkey, up in this country. There's not a lot of them, but it's funny, the other morning we crossed paths I don't think we were probably a mile, 2 miles at the most crossing paths out here on 201. I don't think you heard this, Lee, but I was going down. I had a doctor's appointment, and Mike had been down turkey hunting, I don't know, down the fork somewhere, I guess, but I passed him just below the marshal yard, and then later on I get a text from him. He goes, "Do you see that gobbler at Johnson Mountain?" And I go, "Nope, didn't see nothing." Well, he'd seen one there, and anyways, he tried to get it, and he didn't get it. And anyways, we put the sneak in around. We tried going there, but it wasn't one there, but we kind of took some logging roads around, and we'd get out. It was first thing in the morning. We just get out and hit the box call, and geez, we finally got an answer from one way up on the side of the ridge there, and I don't know, we must have worked that thing for 2 hours. And actually, we didn't. The bird I shot wasn't the one that we were working. We knew there was 2 gobblers, and it sounded like 2 gobblers, then a jake. They were kind of split up, and then they'd get back together and all that. But anyways, the one I shot ended up being one that had drifted off with a jake, and then he came back, and I flattened him. Pretty nice big woods bird. It was 19 pounds and 9-inch beard, inch spurs. Pretty nice bird.
Yeah, I saw the pictures on Facebook. It looked like a good bird.
Yeah. The last one, that's the second one I've shot in the big woods, and the other one had a nice beard and nice spurs, but he only weighed 15 pounds. They got to tough the winter out, but this one here was a good-sized bird.
10 years ago, it would have been unthinkable to just be running around these parts killing turkeys,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of having them up here. I think the ticks go right along with them. And I think it's a matter of time now.
Well, at least they don't stay the winter too much. There's a few that stay around town where they feed the deer and they eat some grain there, but I don't hardly ever see a turkey track in the snow, when you're deer hunting. I mean, once in a great while you do, but not for the amount that you see now in the summer that kind of move in or whatever.
So you don't think they're staying up here?
Not they do around town. Yeah, they do. But they don't stay in the woods because you never see a track in the woods in the winter. So they're going, probably back down the forks. And I think the ones up north of town, I think, come down from Canada, quite frankly. As farm country's not that far,
I can recall one time being on my snowmobile and coming around the corner in the middle of nowhere and having a big tom fly out ahead of me down the road. And I thought, what in the world? Just things you don't normally see up here.
Yeah.
We saw, 2 weeks in a row, we saw birds down on the lower Enchanted Road when I was taking people out shed hunting. And I think the reason why they were there, I got thinking about it afterwards, it was a place where they came in and they chipped. And there was quite a big yard there full of chips. And they were out in that. And I'll bet they were after bugs, and that sawdust and stuff, because that's where we saw them 2 weeks in a row, was out in all that sawdust and chips. Well,
down there, I'm sure they stay the winter anyways. That's right down low country there where the winters aren't as bad. So I'm sure they stay there. But
you found one spot out there that actually had some antlers laying in it, right?
Yeah, we ended up 2 weeks ago. I took a client, and I've been telling everybody, because after I posted the picture on Facebook, we found 17 antlers. And it used to be, when I first started guiding people shed hunting 20 years ago, when I first started Shanz's Guide Service, you could go to Cocajo or the Forks, and it wasn't uncommon to find 15 in a day. But, there's so many people looking. The price is so steep now because there's fewer moose than there used to be, but there's way more shed hunters. So to go on the Enchanted Road, I mean, it ain't like it's a big secret place. I mean, there's a lot of people looking for sheds down there, but I think we got back off on the road and hiked in a ways, but we just happened to hit a spot just right and found a couple of big match sets and then some smaller ones, but and they weren't all new ones. I think we found I think it was 12 new ones and 5 older ones. Then the following week I went back thinking to myself, because we found, like I said, we found some big match sets, but then we found some singles. So I went back the following week with a different client, and we found 2 more small ones. But I think we scoured it pretty good, but I think I could still maybe go back and just go a little deeper. It kind of screwed us up. I think it was on like May 10th. We came up from Skowhegan, and it was, weren't expecting to see any snow. We got to the Forks, and we started meeting vehicles with 2 inches of snow on the top, which I think they probably came down from Jackman. But in where we went on the Enchanted Road, there was 1 inch of new snow. And anybody that's been out looking for sheds before knows that with 1 inch of new snow, it's pretty hard because everything's white.
Yeah.
So it was tough.
Well, we ought to leave right after here and run down there and see what we can't find.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's a good plan.
The trouble with that is my client that I took in there, Joe, he wants to go back in there next spring, and I don't want you racing me to get down there.
No, Jesus, I would never do that. Wouldn't think of it.
I know you wouldn't.
Oh, yeah. So that's our springtime activities here up northern Maine. Moose shed antlering, hunting, and turkeying, I guess. Or you could go fishing. But fishing will start heating up. Usually early the fishing's not all that great. You know, some of the lakes that have the smelt runs, you can get them right after ice out. But
Yeah, I'm going this weekend.
yeah,
Going to go for the first time this weekend. I think the water's warming up enough. And
yeah. I don't go fishing when I can go hunting. But I go fishing when my grandson wants to go, and that's about it. I'm a fair weather fisherman now. I guided fishermen so long that, oh, my, you're out there sitting there in the pouring rain because those are the days that are booked in and freezing to death, and especially right after ice out. And,
We're going to have a great memorial, though. This is going to be the best Memorial weekend we've had in recent memory. It's supposed to be beautiful.
And there's no one here.
Yeah,
You know,
it's too bad.
it is. I mean, it's for us, it's just completely wasted weekend. You know, and nothing happening. But I was thinking the same thing. They're looking at the forecast yesterday. What nice weather we have. What a nice run. It's gonna be warm and just perfect but it'd be good for locals.
Yeah, I think the bugs are going to hatch this week. We've already I live just north of Skowhegan, and we have the black flies and mosquitoes are already out down there. But when I fished at my camp last week, I caught some fish when the water was flat, but there really isn't any bug life out there yet. So this warm weather we've had this week, I expect there'll be some.
they're already here, Lee.
Yeah. Once the black flies come out, that's perfect though. That'll raise the fishing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This morning, me and Joe went out and did a little filming for Onyx. They wanted to do some stuff on how to scout with the Onyx apps and on the computer and all that stuff. So we did a little big woods scouting with the Onyx this morning, and yes, the black flies are coming. They ain't fierce yet, but you can tell once they start it. A couple of hot days in, they get pretty fierce. Oh, I know what we said all that to say we never got past the merch store, right? Because of Joe, he doesn't know the difference between the merch store and our regular website store.
Well, look, all I know is it just shows up in my mailbox. I don't know where it comes from.
So the merch store it's really part of the, you can get to it several ways. You can get to it through the Big Woods website, and there's different ways to click through, but it's, I think we talked about it before, but it's, it's a place where you can get Big Woods swag, T-shirts and mugs and various things. But anyways, we just launched it on the 17th. It was supposed to be the 11th. I think it ended up being like the 15th, I think it launched. We were a couple days late. But anyways.
Did Timmy and Jeff do the work on that, setting it up?
No, Jeff did most of it. Me and Jeff and Woody was collaborating on that, but Jeff did all the legwork as far as with the gal at Emerson's that put it together, and they built it's a website within their website. It's our store within their store. So it's pretty cool anyway. So I think the first weekend when it launched, we had like 30 orders over the weekend, and most of them was them polar fleece, green checkered polar fleeces there. We got, that's a awesome little jacket, lightweight jacket, and stuff.
20% off for Hunt Club members.
Thanks for reminding me. So if you're a member,
I don't know anything about the site, but I know those details.
Yeah. Okay.
Keep you in line.
Yeah. So if you're a hunting club member, that's going to be one of your benefits too. Is you're going to get 20% off any of the merchandise in the merch store there, and the code will be in the hunting club. I think it's there. You just enter your discount code and get your stuff. Good reason to join the hunting club, I guess. You probably want to buy enough stuff, it'll pay for your membership. So anyway, enough of that promotion. What else? Guess that's all.
You see a lot of deer sign down there when you were down shed hunting? Every place I've gone shed hunting, seems like I'm right into deer sign, fresh deer sign. Like
of course, where we went's not too far from where the deer yard up down there in the Forks for the winter anyway. But the biggest thing with that country is not finding a place where there's some deer, but finding a place where you can hunt the deer, because it's just been cut so hard and it's so much, undergrowth, and it's just thick and brushy. But I was telling the client, because he's a big woods hunter. He stayed up here at Powland Lodge with you guys last fall. I was back down Skowhegan area guiding, but Dave stayed up here and hunted with you guys the third week.
Yep.
And we both said, boy, you could hunt deer in here. It was pretty nice. It was older cuts that had thinned out, in places, and there was nice little shooting lanes and stuff in there. But we found mostly moose rubs, from the winter. There was a lot of the fur had been stove up by the moose last winter, but we also didn't find any signposts, but we found some hardwoods that had been racked up pretty good, and some alders that had been raked up by the big bucks. So that was encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, all the deer that I've been seeing, it was a good winter for them, I think. I mean,
oh yeah, easy winter for the deer everywhere.
They did good. I've seen a couple sets of twins, and from last year, the younger ones that were late that made it. And
no, I've been seeing them even along the roads. I've been seeing quite a few deer darting across the roads and stuff. And I don't think, other than the coyotes getting a few there, there's none that starved to death last winter. That's for sure.
And I don't know, the moose too seemed to, from what I've seen, the moose did really good last winter too, because I haven't found a lot of the winter kills like I have in your past.
We didn't find any fresh ones. All the I found 2 bull skulls that I saved. So if he wanted to make a European mount with some of the sheds that we found, so I was glad I saved them. But they were old ones, that probably 3 or 4 years old. They were nice and clean, and there was. The bones were all scattered. We didn't find, not that I've been out a lot, but I've been out 4 days. We didn't find any winter kills down there.
I found one calf that was a couple weeks ago when there was still some snow in the woods, but it was the tiniest calf I've ever seen this time of year. I mean, it was small. I understand why it did. It had some ticks on it, but it wasn't like infested with ticks. You could see enough ticks on it, in the shoulders and stuff, but it hadn't rubbed the hair off. But I just think a small moose like that with them ticks, it just can't take it. They get anemic and lay down and die. But it had only been dead for a day or two because the coyotes had got into it, and the meat was all, it wasn't even, nothing was rotten about it. Even the, where they'd get into like the hind quarter around the guts, and the guts were still blue. They weren't nothing rotted on this moose, so it almost made it, but it didn't quite. And other than that, cow I found way back in the beginning of the winter, that was brainworm. I haven't found any dead ones. And then Nick told me when he was up antler hunting up north for a couple of weeks, he found only 4 this year.
Oh, that's a good sign.
Last year he found 40. Antler hunting, he found 40 dead moose, and this year he found 4. So that's a big difference. Of course, the moose
population is down.
Yeah, but they had it easy too. I mean, the population's down, but it's at least, it's still a good population. But I think it's going to get healthier now by being down. There's just too many, with them ticks. They can't be healthy with all those ticks. So by the ticks starting to probably get, leveled out there, the moose can get a little healthier,
Yeah, I told everybody, I think the Zone 4 hunts that we did last year, the 3 moose that we took out of Zone 4 had hardly any ticks at all on them. So I think they're doing better.
Yeah. Speaking of which, drawing's coming right up, huh?
Yep.
Drawing.
Yeah. How are they gonna do it? They just gonna put it online and just have a video of it?
Yeah.
Drawing each.
Yeah, or it's some kind of a webinar.
Names will just be scrolling.
It's a webinar. No, I think they're going to read them and everything like they do.
Yeah, they call it virtual, so I think they're going to have some people on there.
So they'll be on there reading names like they do at the drawing. So, and then, so.
This is definitely the year you're going to get picked, Lee, because now you're not going to be there to scream out and holler.
Yeah,
do it at your house.
Kelly and I just had that conversation the other day, because I remember we had it in Skowhegan, 2 years ago?
Yeah. Right.
And you guys were all down there, and we were thinking, oh, maybe he'll get drawn in his hometown, and everybody will be there to say, hey, he finally got one. Well, I didn't. Then didn't get one last year. But then this year I was supposed to be in Jackman, but I know most everybody in Jackman area too. So I thought, well, it'll be fun to get picked up there.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We can't win.
Governor shut us down.
We're pulling for you.
Yeah. So this is probably you and Kelly will both get drawn.
Yeah, I talked back when Chandler Woodcock was the commissioner. I talked with him about that because we both have the maximum number of bonus points. And I said, well, I'd like to, my wife really doesn't care about shooting one, but I've been 40 years trying to get one. So I'd like to shoot one on my permit and then, one on hers as the sub-permittee. She'll have to go. But, I'd like to get two and then just call it quits. I'll be done. I'll be going back to the guiding, but.
That'll be all right as long as you don't get two in the same year.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But he said you can actually, if we both got drawn, I could just take one of them and then keep the bonus points for the other one, and maybe get drawn down the road. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's probably a better idea. Nowadays, trying to get two good ones in 1 week ain't gonna work out too good usually.
Well, I remember when you finally got drawn. I can remember what happened, and took you till Saturday because you were guiding somebody that week, and I thought, I've been waiting so long. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on myself.
And that was before the herd was down. That was just weather mainly. It was windy and rainy the first 2 days, and then it ended up warming up the middle of the week. Remember?
Yeah.
And then finally, we barely on Saturday morning there was barely a frost. In places it wasn't everywhere. I mean, it was cool, and then a little bit in the boggy areas, you'd see a little frost in a couple of the plants, but it was a bad weather year that year.
And then I think you wasted one day because you wanted to get one from the river, but it ended up the river was so noisy you couldn't hear anything, right?
Yeah, 2 days really. It wasn't really, one day was a waste because we had a lot of traveling on the river, but we actually went in one spot, and I called in two different bulls, and one was a pretty good one, but if he got out where I could see it better, I could just see his horns back in the alders, and I let that one go. And the other one was a smaller one, like about a 30-inch one. But the other one, I suspected it was a good one, but I just couldn't, I didn't want to just take a chance without seeing it good. But
you ended up finding a pretty good spot from that river, though.
Yeah. You never know.
Worked out.
Yeah, that was the blessing in disguise of the whole thing is finding a place. That was pretty good moose hunting. So, yeah. But anyways, yeah. So if anybody listening's in on the drawing, good luck with that. Hope you get drawn. And if you do and you need a guided hunt, just get a hold of us at Big Woods, any one of us. We all work together on the guided hunts anyways, and we'll get you set up.
That time of year.
Yeah. June. What is it, June?
13th, is it, I think?
I think
12th or 13th.
13th, yep.
That'll be the week after we get together up here.
Yeah.
Right.
June 13th. That's the big drawing date.
We got our big weekend coming up in a couple weeks. That should be a good time.
Yeah. One more thing on that moose drawing is if you are going to get a guided hunt, when you get drawn, you can check the website that night, Fish and Wildlife, and don't dilly or dally around too long trying to find a guided hunt, because any of the good guides are usually going to book up pretty quickly, to get a slot. So words of caution, because we've seen guys calling up a month later or something, or 2 months later trying to get a spot, and it's too late,
It is a crazy time. Then after the drawing, the phone starts ringing and people switching zones and everything else. There's about 3 weeks of
organized chaos.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. It seems like.
Yeah. What was that other thing you were saying before I cut you off of the knees?
Oh, I was just starting in about, Lee was talking about if, him being the sub for Kelly. And I know I did that one time.
I remember.
And we got a nice bull, but on the 5-hour ride back on the dirt road, my wife said, please don't put my name in anymore. I drug her around. It was.
Yeah, I think my wife's going to be a good sport about it. But for any of you that don't know, I went on the very first hunt in 1980. I would have been a 13 or 14-year-old kid. They only gave out 700 permits that year, and my father got drawn. But my father had never hunted in the Northwoods, and I was just a kid. So we went up there, and we got a small bull. But then my father never got drawn again until he turned 70. They gave him one because he turned 70. They felt so bad. So I got him a really nice bull. But it took us till Friday. We passed on 8 or 9 bulls before we finally found the one that I wanted him to shoot. And now we're 3 years later, and I still haven't been drawn. So I think last year I had 90 bonus points, and Kelly's got 90 bonus points. So I don't know how. I think my odds are better to be drawn than not be now, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're all pulling for you, Lee. It's kind of funny, but it really ain't funny anymore, is it?
No, I mean, I don't mind when the people, everybody had fun at my expense there at Skowhegan. Remember, I couldn't speak to defend myself. I'd lost my voice, so I couldn't speak to defend myself. But I know it's all good-natured fun, and Chris claims if I do get drawn, he wants to come up and film it. So if he's not too busy, that would be fun to have him in camp. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, I do know the one thing that must eat at you is when you hear about the non-resident who put in for the first time and got drawn, or the family. There's always the family that has
every year
2 or 3 tags, and they always get one, and that is something that I've always thought they should change is given away. They shouldn't give 2 to 1 house just because it's, I think people prefer it to not have that, only because it's just so much at once. It's so much meat at once. It's makes it.
Well, the other thing too is it used to be a 2-year set out. Now they made it 3, but really 5 wouldn't hurt a thing either. You know what I mean?
Right.
To set out 5 years ain't a big deal to have to set out if you're lucky enough to get a permit, and just that move alone would really help out the people that are staying in every year.
I've had discussions with clients from out of state, and they put in for a year or 2 or maybe 3 years, and they get drawn, and they call up and say, well, I really wanted this zone or I really wanted that zone, but this is the one that I ended up with. And I just say, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You've been putting in 2 or 3 years, and you got your
as you slam the phone down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And there's still plenty of, I really think, I tell everyone, because we've heard all the horror stories about there's no moose left. And, this zone that we're in here, Zone 8, used to be crazy full of moose. And there's probably not as many moose as there used to be for sure, but there's still a huntable amount of moose.
Oh, God, yeah, there's plenty of moose.
And then if you go further north, there's plenty of moose. This calling for the moose hunt to be taken away, that's the reason why we're in the trouble that we're in, is because we didn't shoot enough of them to begin with.
Exactly right. There's still, I would say, I used to say there was more moose up north than there was deer, per square mile. It might have evened out now, but there's still, it's easier to find a moose in these woods than it is a buck,
For sure.
You'll always see more moose than you'll see deer in a week, And I mean, that's, some places it favors the deer and there's more deer than moose, but on average you'll see more moose.
Well, I know, like this winter, just because of the conditions that we have, the moose could go anywhere, so they weren't as visible on the roads. And a lot of people thought that was, the moose herd's gone. There's no moose left. We used to see them all the time on sleds, and it's just the conditions. Because when you get out in the woods, I mean, I'm seeing areas that, they were just, piled in there in the winter. There was, a lot of moose in certain spots. But
when the moose droppings get ankle deep, there's plenty of them around.
That, and the other thing is they're smarter than they used to be. They don't run around in the roads like they used to. They stay back in the woods, and people that used to complain that the moose hunt, really wasn't a hunt, they should be happy, because it is, it's a tougher hunt now. You have to, you can't just hop out of your vehicle and shoot one in the road. They became a big game species like they should be, and you got to hunt a little harder for them, but that's a good thing.
Yeah. Another thing about moose hunting, too, is it's a good time to, in certain places, scout for deer. I found a bunch of good deer hunting spots, moose hunting, places that I don't normally hunt because they're further away, in a different zone or something. But I found some pretty cool deer hunting spots. You get in there trying to call moose or whatever, and you find a little honey hole here or there, because the deer in pockets. But you always got to be scouting, right? Looking around. Hey, it's Hal here. I want to talk to you about a new partnership we have with Yokohama Tires. And at Big Woods Bucks, we don't take our partnerships lightly. We focus on things that we can use and can believe in and trust. And I've been running a set of the Yokohama Geolander MTs for about a month now. And over the years, we've had a lot of trouble in the woods, with gravel roads, shale roads, and flat tires and stuff. And so I tried these tires out on a moose hunt, and they worked fabulous. I had no problems with them, and still testing them. But the thing I like, too, is I made a trip to New York, and they're for a mud tire, they're extremely quiet on the road. Probably the most quiet ones I've had for an aggressive tread tire. And so we're going to keep at testing them here, but I think they're going to be the ticket. I've used dozens of different tires over the years, and these look like they're going to be the ticket. So anyways, the tires are made right here in the USA, down in Virginia, all the light tires, light truck and car tires. There's like 51 sizes available, and they also have a Geolander XAT as a new tire that it's a little less aggressive, like more of an all-season radial. So anyways, check out their website, Yokohama Tire, and see if it's something you can use.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And, of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com. It's hard for me to do that. I guess, just when I'm focusing on, when I'm thinking about moose hunting, I'm not even looking ahead to deer season. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's funny. And then the second that we finish our last hunt in October, it's all about deer,
Yeah. I don't mean I'm focused on it, but I've found some places. You just stumble across some places, and you might find some good buck rubs and, some swampy area, or, you get back in some hidden cuts, and all of a sudden there's, all kinds of deer sign in there. You never would have found that if you wouldn't be a place you'd even think about going to scout for deer,
I've got a funny story. You were talking about how, when the October season is done and then you start thinking about deer season. Well, that's how it is for me. And usually that last week of October is, that's scouting season for my deer hunters that are going to be coming in. But last fall, one of my buddies from up in Jackman called me and said, "Hey, Shanzy, I need a big favor." So Hal says, "I got a moose hunter coming, and I'm flat on my back in bed. Any chance I can get you to take him out on a cow hunt?" Yeah. It's the first time in my life I'd ever done a cow hunt, because I don't try to get cow hunters. But I remember telling Kelly when I left the house, "You better pray that I get a cow quick," because I said I need to come back and get the firewood in the woodshed, and then I need to go scout for 2 or 3 days for the deer hunters. And, I'd already done some deer scouting, but I like to, the 2 or 3 days just before the season starts is when you're really doing your majority of your scouting. But the funny part of that story was I had 2 moose hunts up there in Zone 4 in September, and I had set up a tent camp. Hal knows where it is. I'd set up a tent camp, and we got 2 nice bulls up there in September. And then when we came back a month and a half later, the last week of October, Hal's client and I, we'd been moose hunting all day and hadn't really seen a cow. We'd seen a few small bulls, but we were coming up the road, and lo and behold, right where my tent camp was 6 weeks earlier, we shot a great big cow literally right where my camp yard was from 6 weeks previous. So that worked out good.
Nice.
The other funny part about that was I never realized when I asked you to do it, it was a client that you'd guided for me deer hunting before.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
So you already knew him, which made it great. When I told Steve there, I said, "Lee's going to come up and take you." "Oh, great," because he already knew, so that was kind of funny. I never realized it until I mentioned that when I said something to him about it. I said, "Yeah, I got Lee Shands coming up," and he goes, "Oh yeah, Lee, we went deer hunting with him before," and so that was pretty neat.
Yeah, and he got a good cow. I think it was about 600 pounds. It was a nice big cow.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be a good one because we were looking over. The first moose that we saw was actually a spike bull, but I couldn't see his spikes. I only had 4-power binoculars, and I thought it was a cow, but then he had a 9-power scope on his rifle, and he said, that thing's got spikes on it. Well, we kept creeping up closer and closer.
You just tell him you can knock that off with a hammer. It's no big deal.
Well, we didn't have to because we kept creeping up closer and closer, and just about the time that I could tell that it was a bull, the cow stepped out beside the bull, and she was twice as big as the bull was. So I said, shoot that cow right there.
Nice.
Yeah. Easy one to load, huh? Right in the road.
Yeah, it was perfect. I was getting ready. I had just hooked up. I've got a little, it's kind of like a come-along, only it's got chain on it instead, and that's what I usually use to pull them in when I'm by myself. And I just about got that hooked up to the rack that you and I had built there years ago. And some guys came driving along and said, hey, you need any help? And I was like, well, seeing as how you're right there, how about I just hook a rope on your back of your bumper there? And I said, you can just pull right in here. And so, yeah, it just took a minute. I had a little snatch block there. I hooked that up instead, and he drove away with the rope, and in she came.
Nice.
What day of the hunt was that?
First day was Monday.
First day.
Yeah, it was perfect.
First day.
It's a way to get them.
So then I spent the night and went deer scouting because I was up here.
Right.
Who was it? Was the three of us, and who else was with us the first week up here for deer season? Was it just the three of us guiding that week?
Let's see, first week.
Yeah, you're going to have to ask Joe because my memory never goes back that far.
Was Stevens wasn't with us the first week?
No, I think it might have just been the three of us. But, yeah, so I spent the night and went out deer scouting. I went back to all my spots that I usually guide hunters in up here, and I found enough deer sign. I said, I think I'm all set. So I headed back to Cornville and got my firewood in.
Everybody was happy.
Everybody went home happy.
Yeah.
You going to keep your back in shape this year?
I'm trying to. I'll tell you something. It's always been that the last 2 years I had that happen. It's been on my left side of that hip bone that sticks out beside your backbone there. And it's always been, and if I'd get a nag in my lower back, that's where it always was on the left, always on the left. The other day, all of a sudden, it was like 2 weeks ago it started. I'm like, geez, my right side is nagging me. Now, it's never done it before on the right side. And I'm like, kind of keep an eye on that. And I'm like, then I got thinking, I didn't know if the chiropractor would be open, because of this corona stuff. I'm like, I don't know if a lot of the doctors are closed. I didn't know. But anyways, it wasn't real bad. And then all of a sudden, I was out, probably had it for a week or so there. It was kind of nagging me, but not real bad. I went out one morning. I get up and it felt stiffer, and I went outside to do some stuff in the yard, and I bent over to pick up a bucket, and it shot right into a spasm in my back, and I'm like, and down my back of my leg. I said, you got to be kidding me. It almost felt like it was before, but not that bad, but it was a little different one. I didn't do anything. I turned around and went in the house. I got the ice pack out of the refrigerator, and I sat on that for a couple hours, and it subsided pretty good, and I got on the phone, and I called, and luckily he's up in Madison there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And this was Wednesday. And they were taking patients, limited basis. And I got in. Whew, I was glad.
It's a good thing. We're going to have to put you down if you carry on like this.
I got in there and he crick-cracked one side, crick-cracked the other. And I walked out of there like a new man. It's been fine ever since. It was just, I knew when it nags for a week or so and it don't get better, or it's out of place, it's kind of screwed up. But well, it's part of getting old, So I tell you, young guys, don't pick all the heavy stuff up, because I used to do the same thing, pick something up till you can't pick it no more. I don't do it anymore. If I start lifting something and I feel like I can tell my weight now, how much to lift, because I can lift it, but if I do, my back won't take it.
I think I've reached that point in about the last year where I'm starting to pay more attention, because my dad's told me for years, you're going to regret that one day. And yeah.
Now, having said that, the last time I came up here to visit Joe, he had a dryer that weighed about 1,000 pounds.
I forgot about that.
And he wanted to know. Now, he had invited me up for some reason. I can't remember what it was. But then
that's what it was.
But then I got up here and I thought, I know why he asked me to come up here. That friggin' dryer weighs 1,000 pounds.
We did struggle with that thing, didn't we?
Well, the worst thing was it was almost as tall as the ceiling. So we had such a trouble getting it in the door.
Yep. Yeah, I had forgot about that, Lee. You're right. Maybe I haven't learned my lesson.
Well, do you also
That was
remember
rough.
we were lucky because for whatever reason, I don't remember why, but I had my moose ramp that I used to pull moose in
Right.
the back of the truck. I just built a brand new one out of pressure-treated lumber and 3/4-inch plywood, and we put that dryer on that, and that's how we slid it up
Yep.
into your place.
Well, it's still drying like crazy. It's working good.
Yeah.
That was funny how I got that. It was a big commercial dryer I was looking for, and I searched around online and found it down in Rhode Island. And I know one person that lives in Rhode Island is Chris.
Right.
So I called down and talked to the guy, and I said, all right, well, I'm going to have a buddy of mine come over and look at it. And it turns out that Chris was his real estate agent and had sold his building for him.
Oh, no
Knew
kidding.
all about it, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a small world.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. So, anybody got any deer stories?
Well,
Deer
go
stories.
ahead, Joe. I've actually,
I want to hear a deer story. Getting a
We
little,
talking,
getting a little antsy here now.
all right.
It's already May, you know.
I don't know. I wanted a memorable story. It was partially tracking story, but it was one of the most memorable ones is because it was both my kids were with me and they were young.
Oh, yeah.
And we took a ride. We just thought we'd jump in the truck and take a ride. It was a nice snowy day, and not a whole lot to the story. Deer, we were out here behind the mountain, and buck crossed in front of us and went down through the woods, and I was able to figured out where it was going, and my brother was with me. He jumped out and got on the track, and I went back down around and got on the road and had the kids with me, and we were able to cut the deer off and shot it right there. It was a nice buck. It was only a 6-pointer, but having the kids,
Oh, yeah. That's
having
cool.
the kids was everything,
Sure.
They're
Did you tell them it don't happen this way all the time? You don't get to
no, I told
call
them that's
the
how
right
it always happens.
Yeah, you call the right spot.
I don't know if I've ever since then. That's probably the only time that I've seen one out of the truck like that, where we were able, where it actually worked out, because
Yeah.
we weren't going traipsing in the woods. They were young, and it was a short story, but it was
Yeah.
memorable as hell to me because
Well, the thing I think
was the
about
first-
is it's not that easy to pick the right spot where one's gonna come out. You know what I mean?
it's just dumb luck,
Yeah, yeah. You pick a spot you think's right, and I mean, all the times I've been hunting, I mean, I can't think of. There ain't been a lot of times when, like, even when I had a client with me, and I'm like, if you get down there or something, he's gonna cross there. Although I did do that with Chris one time. I tell that story about we'd tracked one the day before, and it went down across this brook. And there's a corner in the brook with a point that's kind of makes a point on the other bank, and it's just a natural place for him to cross. It's just a little small stream. But the next day we got over in the same area, and I think we had it wasn't new snow. I guess it was the same snow, but I told him to just sit down for a little bit, and I'd circle the area and look for a track. And I hadn't got very far from him, 1/4 of a mile. This great big staving buck track with a doe, just smoking fresh. They just made it. So I crept back and got him. And when I got back to him, I said, follow our tracks down. We were right by where we'd been the day before. I said, remember we come through here yesterday? I said, take our tracks right back down to the brook. I said, because I'm sure they're going to end up down that way, whether I jump them or maybe just on their own. And he goes, no, he said, I'd rather just go with you. And that's back in that's back my early days. I think that was the first year that when they first came, him and Marcus there. But so I didn't know enough to say, do what I told you to do, I just figured you could let the clients do what they wanted, And so I said, well, all right then, I was easy going. I said, all right then. So we went back and we got on the track, and we didn't go, I don't know, as we went, it was probably more than 100 yards, but 200 yards, and jumped them right there. They hadn't gone anywhere. They were right there. So we start down the track, and I know they're headed there. They're headed right towards the brook. So I didn't say nothing to Chris. I just kept going along on the track. Eventually, we come down there, and we're standing in our boot tracks from the day before on the bank of that stream. I said, you see why I told you to come down here? And he was all sheepish, and I said, you don't get to make these calls that often. It's just, I just had a hunch because they were in the right place to do that if they were going to go. And when we jumped them, that's what they did. They headed right down and right across the brook, right through our tracks from the day before.
Yeah, we talked about it quite a bit after this season. I think how as unpredictable as they are, they could be predictable too and hit some of the same crossings and.
Yeah, if you know your area, if you're real familiar with your hunting area, then you got a better chance of, making something like that happen. I mean, trying to do it in a place you never been in or whatever, you can say, you can look at your map, and your own expert. You can look at anything, but the odds of them going there is somewhere between slim and none, right? So there's a lot of other places in the woods they can go.
We got time for a fairly long deer story, or?
Got all the time in the world.
Yeah.
All righty.
I don't think they'll shut the thing off in the middle of your story.
Well, we were talking about Dave Souza, the client that I took out there looking for moose sheds a couple weeks ago when we found all those sheds.
You going to throw him under the bus?
Oh, no, I'm not going to throw him under the bus. He helped me get the deer out.
Oh.
So back, I think it might have been, he wasn't my first client. I had clients a year before that, but I think it was the second year I was in business. And at the time, I still carried a gun. When I started my guide business, I used to carry a gun with me. And I only did that first couple of years. But anyway, I had Dave and a couple of other guys. Dave's from down on Cape Cod, and then I had a couple of guys from Boston area. And we were actually down in Cornville area, and I had jumped this buck, and I got a pretty good look at it, and I thought, man, that thing looked like it had some bone on his head. But it was the weirdest thing. I would walk ahead. There was like a little game trail ahead of me, and I'd walk ahead about 100 yards, and I'd jump him again. So I did that probably 4 or 5 times, and then I thought, I think he wants to cross this trail here or something. So I knew I'd been down there before, and there was a corner up ahead of me, and I thought, I'm just going to run up to that corner and stop and see what happens. So I ran for all I was worth, got up to the corner and stopped, and I could hear that deer running beside me. And he crossed that trail ahead of me, and I pulled up. I had a Model 70 Winchester, I didn't hunt in the big woods with that much, but I was close to home, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I even had a scope on it. I flicked the safety off, and that buck jumped across that game trail, and I shot him and took him right behind the ear, and he landed right in a heap. So I got up there and thought, boy, that's a pretty nice buck. I don't know if he'll weigh 200, but that's a pretty nice buck. Well, Dave showed up, and he said, boy, that's a nice buck. And I said, yeah, I don't think he'll weigh 200, but it's got a nice rack. And so it ended up being a 191-pound buck, but really nice 8-point rack. So that was the first year that Dave came with me, and he helped me get the deer out. Well, the other 2 guys from Boston, they didn't say too much. They weren't with us. I had them sitting on stand because they weren't too good in the woods, but they decided to come back the following year, and Dave didn't. I think he was going out west somewhere and hunted. But I had those same 2 clients from Boston the following year, and I thought, I'm not going to carry a gun because I don't want to shoot another buck in front of these guys and have them ticked off. So I took them up to Cocajo, and I ended up, there was a mountain up there that I'd killed a couple of other bucks on before I started guiding, and so I set them up. It was beautiful. Back when they used to cut with cable skidders, instead of being big slash piles and all that, there were nice little skid trails, and then there'd be like a 5-acre clear cut, and then there was nice pieces of woods in between them. I never realized at the time just how perfect that spot was until they went back years later and just devastated it. But anyway, getting back to the story, I had these 2 guys set up in 2 little 5-acre clear cuts watching them, and I was going around in circles and checking for deer signs, see if I could get deer moving. Well, my father had come up with us, but he was hunting on the other side of the mountain. He'd brought his own vehicle, and he was hunting on the other side. And I think it was early afternoon. I heard a shot up on top of the hill, and I was down at the bottom. There was a little cedar bog down there, and I was kicking around in that, hoping I might get some deer moving for these 2 clients of mine. So I heard the shot, and I walked up to the first client. There was enough snow for tracking. There was probably about 3 inches of snow on the ground, and I got back to where the client should have been sitting on this stump that I had for him, and he wasn't there. So I followed his tracks, and he was down in the brush, kind of like hiding down in the brush. And I said, well, what are you doing down there? I thought maybe he was going to the bathroom or something. He said, a bull moose came across that. He said, I know he must have been charging me. He must have seen me on that stump. Well, he wasn't used to seeing moose, so he was hiding down in the brush. So I said, that wasn't you that shot. He's like, nope. He said, it might have been the other guy, but he said, I think it was probably your father. I think it was on the other side of the hill. So I said, the guy's name was Wayne. I said, I'll go up and check and see. I can't remember what the other guy's name was. I'll see if it was him. And I said, if not, I'll go up and check and see if it was my dad. I said, I'll come back, I'll be back here around 4 o'clock and get you back out to the truck and so on and so forth. So he said, if you want to go back to the truck and get your gun, he said, I don't mind if you go back and get your gun in case your father or the other guy has wounded a deer. He said, if you want to go up and get your gun. And so that's all I needed to hear. So I went back to the truck and got my gun.
Green lighted.
And then, so then I went up and, again, the guy's name escapes me, but I talked with the other guy. I said, that wasn't you that shot? And he said, no. He said, it was on the other side of the hill. And I said, well, I'd gone back to the truck and got the gun because Wayne told me that I could. I said, I'm going to go up and see if my dad, shot a deer up there. And I said, I'll meet you guys back at the truck. Wayne said, you could follow your tracks back out to the truck. And he said, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. He said, I can find my way back. So I went up, and sure enough, my father had shot at a buck. I said, was it a big one? He said, no. He said, it took me a while. He said, in the scope, he said, I saw, but it was all, about level with his ears. He said it was probably a 6 or a small 8. And he said, I went down and no blood, no hair or anything. So I told him what was going on. I said, the clients are going to meet me back at the truck. And I said, I'll go down and I'll follow your buck track for a ways and make sure there's, no blood or anything. So I went down and followed my the tracks that were running away from my father that he'd shot at. And I got down maybe quarter of a mile down the side of the mountain, and I found another set of tracks that was like twice as big as the buck that he'd shot at, and it looked to me like it was just as fresh. So I thought, well, I think I'll track this for a ways and see what happens. It was the easiest tracking job I ever had in my life. I followed that buck about 10 minutes, looked up on the side of the hill, and he was looking back at me, and I dumped him right there. So then I had to run back, go up over the mountain, and get back down to the truck, and the clients were there waiting for me, and they said, did you shoot? And I said, yeah. They said, did you get one? I said, yeah. They said, is it a big one? And I said, you ain't going to believe it. So anyway, we got the deer out, and the clients helped me drag it out. And they said they didn't mind. They told me that they didn't care if I carried the gun, and they didn't care if I shot a deer. And then they helped me drag it out. Well, when we got to Cocajo, it was an 11-point buck, weighed 239 pounds, and they didn't come back the following year, so I don't know what happened. So I haven't carried a gun since. That was the last time that I carried a gun.
They always say they don't care, but really they do. I did the same thing. We carried guns for first 2 or 3 years there, and then the last year I did was I had a client on a one-on-one, and it's after I left, must have been Bruce and Fred to their own demises up there at my other camp there, and I took this one guy over in another place, went up to another lake by boat, and I had been with him, I think 3 days we hunted, and we hunted hard. It was bare ground, and we walked all day on bare ground, and I don't think I was carrying my rifle either at that time, and I might have been, I can't remember, maybe I was. But anyways, the next day he says, we've walked quite a lot these few days. He says, I just soon sit tomorrow. He said, we had found a really nice place through a little notch in the mountain there. It was a pretty good and beaten path, and it had a nice scrape right in the middle of it. And I said, oh, yeah, that'd be a good place to sit. So I was taking him up there in the morning, thunder and lightning, and that's a story I wrote about my thunderstorm buck. But anyways, he was going to sit for the day, so whether I had taken my gun the other day or not, it doesn't matter, because I took it this day because he was going to sit. And I must have asked him if he cared, because, usually we always did ask the guys, and they'd always say, no, that's all right. And then I always wondered afterwards if it really was all right. I think sometimes they just didn't want to, think you thought there was an idiot or something for saying it. So I shot that thunderstorm buck up there a couple hours after I'd left him there, and I drug it most of the way by myself. I got it off the mountain probably, it was a long drag. I think that was the hardest drag I ever had. Probably towed him a mile by myself, And I got in the back of these fairly new cuts they had in there, and I had a wheel cart back at the camp. So I ran down to the camp, had to walk back, to get to camp, and I threw it in the boat. When I got to camp, he was there because where I'd set him, it was easy enough for him to come down, drop down to the logging road and walk back to camp. And I told him I'd shot one up there. I was going to go get it. He said, I'll help you, And so we went up and we wheeled it down across that cut. I stove every spoke. Time I got it down there, it was one of them wheel cuts that had the metal spoke, like tire,
bicycle
tires. And that thing, we rim racked that so many times because it was all uneven ground and old, new skid roads and ruts and everything else. And got it down the lake, threw it in the boat, went down, hung it up camp, and there was only a couple days left anyways. He might have said he wanted to go out Saturday. I can't remember, but about, I don't know, it was like a month after the season, I get a nasty letter from him. He was a lawyer, so they're good at writing them kind of letters, So about how he didn't think it was right that I was hunting, when I was getting paid to guide and all that. And it's like, I asked him, He didn't come back either.
Yeah, it is a tough situation. We talked about it this year because there was a couple circumstances this season where that was a decision to make, and everyone's different. Some people genuinely don't care, and they look at it like as they're out hunting with their buddy. Or
hey everyone, Hal here. Just wanted to take a minute to talk about the Woodman Arms muzzleloader. We got them all set on the website to build your own and or buy your Big Woods Bucks model, either one you want to do. But anyways, we've tested it a lot, and I can honestly say it's the most accurate muzzleloader on the market, best to carry in the Big Woods or anywhere else at 5.5 pounds. You can't go wrong with it, so get on there and check it out. Hey, Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the Hunting Club, and you can join by going right online at bigwoodsbucks.com. But anyways, I've got all my information is going in there, and it's a place where you can get together and look at my films, tips, writings, and all of that. And the best part is there's forums for you to communicate with, the rest of the club members, talk about Big Woods stuff and all of that. So anyways, $36 a year, cheaper than getting a Starbucks once a day. So join up and hope you see you on there.
And I had a situation this year where the guy was in the stand all week, and he encouraged me to, but in that situation, I just ended up doing loops and, scouting, looking, because it was that week when it was real loud and crunchy, and
right.
He couldn't go anyway. He just wanted to sit, and it's better. I asked you about it, because it's especially a season like this last season where you're guiding the whole time. You don't have a gun in your hand the whole season. It's nice to.
Yeah. Well, from then on, I never carried one, and nobody that guided for me did either. Once in a great while, it'd be like on a Saturday. Well, they could if the guys left and they hunted, but I remember Rocky Ashley shot one time. His guys, they'd been hunting the same area, and they told him on Saturdays, hey, we know where we're going, just bring your gun and hunt, and he shot a beautiful buck, too. It was like 245 or something. Yeah. And they still come back after. They were great. They didn't.
Yep. Yeah, some guys genuinely don't care, it doesn't bother them, but it's like the story you told, with your lawyer buddy there.
Yeah.
Well, what happened to me was at the time when I started the guide business, all four of my kids were still living at home, and Kelly was she was a stay-at-home mom, and she didn't care about working outside the home. So the income was important enough to me that I didn't want to lose the clients, and I just started charging more for the hunts and thought, but I ended up probably, I don't know how you did this. I think you just didn't guide during muzzleloader season, but what I've done at least the last 10 years, the only time I carry a gun now is muzzleloader season, but my clients know if they come with me muzzleloader season that I'm gonna carry a muzzleloader, and I just charge them less. I charge them like half price for the hunt, but they know that I'm gonna hunt too, and otherwise I'd never get a chance to hunt because I guide every week, and I think you guided every week last year, didn't you? And it's it's tough. So That's what I do. I hunt with the muzzleloader now, and I'll tell you what, last year, lugging that new muzzleloader, I've had a lot of muzzleloaders throughout the years, and that new muzzle, it carries beautiful, it shoots beautiful, it's just, man, that was nice.
Everyone I've showed that to, that Woodman Arms, they got to have one, you know.
It just carries so nice. The balance point, it's nice and thin. It almost reminds me of like carrying a 94 Winchester or your 7600 carbine. I mean, that's
what he designed it around. He designed it to be the same weight, balance, and everything as a 7600 carbine with the same safety. That's what he looked at when he was designing it. So anybody that uses those, but the same way with a lever, the safety's different, obviously, but carries like a nice gun. But did Joe tell you he was going to guide all 4 weeks again this year?
I thought you said you weren't going to do that, Joe.
I'm not.
I got you down. I got you down for 4 weeks.
Oh, perfect. Good. Good. I'm anxious to meet him.
You know what goes along with that, though, and you guys said you already talked about it, but when you and Logan and I hunted last year, because down where I live, if you stay below Route 16 there, you get a second week of muzzleloading.
Yeah.
So the week before, during muzzleloader season, I guided a guy from out of state, a guy from Vermont, and we were in there and we both saw nice bucks that we didn't quite get a shot at, and then we saw a couple of smaller bucks that we could have shot and didn't. But I had spent a whole week in there, the week before that, but then we got rain and we had a crust, so I didn't have good tracking conditions until that Saturday, which would have been the very last day. It was December 14th, I think.
Yeah,
so it'd be the latest that you could ever hunt, and we weren't in the woods 15 minutes and Logan shot that buck, and I'd spent a whole week in there the week before with good tracking conditions. Yeah, we weren't in the woods 15 minutes and Logan shot that buck.
I told him last podcast there I was trying to find your voicemail you left me because it was so funny when after he shot it. You were like, can you believe that guy? Yeah. It was fun. That was a fun morning.
I wish people could have seen his face, though, because Logan's a skinny little guy, and it probably felt pretty heavy to him, but he said, pick that thing up. He said, I think that'll weigh 200. And when I got it about waist high and the antler popped right off, his eyes got as big as saucers.
Yeah. He did a good job. He went in there and killed a beautiful buck. That was a fun day. It's a beautiful area. I know I say that every time we talk about it, but I don't hunt down that way much. Not in that middle ground. I'm either down in, around where I live in Skowhegan area or up here, and it is nice. It's kind of a mix of the big woods and
and
farm
me,
country.
Yeah, for me, like this, if people are familiar with Maine, there's tons of deer in Skowhegan, Cornville area, but you can't track down there because there's posted land and the tracts of land aren't big enough. But if you go just a little bit further, you can get into Weyerhaeuser land, and there's other. I think that property was, the name escapes me, but they're a big woods operator, and you can track in those areas, and it makes it nice. The other thing that makes it nice for me is, I might get a couple extra days to hunt, down there because they get that extra week of muzzleloading.
Right.
Yep. All right, good stories, guys, but I guess we're at the end of our time here for this week.
Be sure to got to go back to the YouTube. It's been a real popular format for putting it out. So if you're on YouTube, just be sure and click subscribe, and if you're on iTunes and you like what you're listening to, give us a review, and it all helps us out and helps to keep us going here.
Yep. We'll keep teaching as long as anybody's going to listen. So that's it for now. Thanks for coming up, Lee. And we'll have a long summer, and hunting season will be here before we know it. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.